Flashback.
Now, trial, again, I think it's very, very unlikely for a trial. So we're mostly looking at a plea deal. So again, just like in most cases, it's not going to go to a trial. Highly low rate of trial nowadays, less than 2%. So it's likely going to end in a plea agreement. It's likely going to end in a plea agreement.
All right, let's just get this out of the way. I was wrong.
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
When I first broke down Wes Watson's felony battery case, I said this wasn't going to trial.
So that was a f***ing lie.
And I meant that because most people, when facing 30 years in prison and staring into their own viral assault video, tend to say, hey, you know what? Maybe probation or a short jail sentence sounds nice. But no, not Wes. No, Wes said, let's go to war. So in a bold move, one that screams either I'm clinically unhinged or potentially genius, Watson dropped his original attorney, Michael Gottlieb, and replaced him with none other than Mr. Roberto Prado. Now, Roberto's the type of attorney you only hire when you're going to trial. He's not an attorney that takes plea deals. So that move in itself told me that they're going to trial now. And if you know Florida criminal defense, the name Bob Prado is basically the final boss of trial attorneys. Think Saul Goodman, but with fewer ethical violations. If Saul could talk his way out of a meth lab explosion, Prado could get the jury to believe it was a science experiment gone wrong. Different styles, same end game. A little more about Bob Prado. So again, like I said, you don't hire Bob because you want to negotiate a plea deal. You hire Bob when you're going to trial and you want to win, period. Like I said, I'm going to be objective here. This guy, Bob, is the real deal. He's not showing up to argue for time served or anger management. He shows up in full legal armor, ready to beat prosecutors over the head with their own burden of proof. And a lot of the time it works, guys. He was a former prosecutor, and he's sort of very keen onto all their games. And as we mentioned in the former video, the prosecutor's a rookie. So this is really going to be a test. And now I don't mean for this video to come off, as a glaze fest for Bob, but in keeping in line with my goal of being objective with all the happenings of this case, I got to keep it real about Bob's abilities inside a courtroom. Now, does this mean Wes is going to win? No, not necessarily. The surveillance footage looks like a deleted scene from Fight Club. And the charges, again, we're talking about 2 counts of aggravated battery under Florida statute. That's 15 years per count. So again, should the judge choose to run those consecutive, we're potentially, again, obviously not realistically, but we're potentially talking about 30 years. Again, that's not motivational speaker time. That's make peace with the rec room gang politics time. So as a quick recap, guys, aggravated battery in Florida means you either used a weapon, caused great bodily harm, or, if you're feeling ambitious, both. And according to the reports and the footage, this fight involved fists, feet, a weight belt, and what may have been a dumbbell cameo. This wasn't a misunderstanding, this was a beat down with merchandise. That being said, what does the legal strategy look like now that I'm almost certain we're going to trial? What does hiring Prado really signal? It means Wes is betting the house that he can convince 12 strangers, probably not big into the pre-workout and YouTube yelling, that he's innocent, or at least that the state can't prove he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And here's the twist, guys. With Prado, he might actually pull that off. He's the kind of guy who could stand in front of a jury holding the surveillance footage in one hand and a signed confession in the other and still say, ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing here is a performance art piece gone tragically misunderstood. So why did he hire Bob Prado? Now, either, again, Wes was planning on going to trial the entire time, or maybe there was a pretty terrible plea offer that was extended, and so he's rolling the dice and thinking that he could get a better outcome at trial. Now, here in trial, we're going to see some real chess being played. Prado's going to file motions, to suppress parts of the video, maybe challenge witness credibility, maybe even attack the arrest process itself. This is all standard trial prep. Now, as for the trial date, don't get too attached. Right now it states it's going to be in June, but that's highly, highly unlikely, especially since Prado just jumped on the case here on May 13th. Final thoughts, guys. Look, I don't think Wes walks on this just because he hired a great lawyer, but I do think this case just went from probably going to quietly end with a plea to must-watch courtroom drama. Again, this is no longer a misdemeanor scuffle. This is now Florida versus Wes Watson, the spectacle. And I'll be covering every round like it's a UFC title fight. So to wrap it up, I said this case wouldn't go to trial. Wes said bet, and now Bob Prado's entering the ring wearing a suit and swinging for reasonable doubt. Am I still betting against him? Let's just say I'm hedging. Prado's shown time and time again in a lot of really high-profile trials that he's able to get key pieces of evidence suppressed prior to trial. Now, in this case, obviously, that big piece of evidence is going to be that surveillance video. Again, whether or not that is suppressed could play a major role in whether or not this does go to trial. My anticipation is that if it is admitted, so if they're allowed to use the surveillance footage, it's still possible that this results in a pretrial negotiation or agreement. Now, if Bob is able to get that surveillance footage that clearly showed the entirety of this assault suppressed, now all of a sudden, there's a really strong likelihood that Wes walks. Because without that surveillance footage, we've got some witness statements, and we have a victim that clearly initiated this scuffle. Obviously, it far exceeded any sort of measurable legal self-defense on Wes's part, but without that surveillance footage, guys, this is going to be a very, very difficult case for the prosecution to prove. And again, I want to remind you, this prosecutor is a rookie, and he's going against someone who's had probably about 45 years of trial experience. Mr. Prado, again, although he's pushing 80 years old, he's sharp as a tack. Okay, so it's gonna be something to watch. So tune in, guys. We'll keep you updated on the legal process the whole way. Make sure to tune in also, obviously, to John Bravo. He covers every aspect of these matters regarding all these clowns that we've covered before. I just try to give a little bit of the legal insight on the back end. All right, guys. As always, like I said, tune in for more. We'll be sure to keep you guys updated on any motions, filings filed within this Wes Watson case. But let's just say things got a lot more interesting. Till next time, guys. Stay safe, stay smart, and if someone invites you to fight at their gym, maybe say no.